Tiff from Tiff's Creatives. Welcome back, and I'm excited to have you here. We're going to talk more about this particular journal and the do's and don'ts, the things that I learned from, the things that you can learn from, and that might save you some time and money. So let's go ahead and go right into it. This was my beginner junk journal, like many of you guys know, and it's my alligator journal. It has a big mouth. I love it. And so as I went throughout this book, learning lessons as we went along, I would try different things out that I saw online as I watched different videos. So this time I was watching videos on snippet rolls. What were snippet rolls? Why do people use them? What the heck were they? So everybody was doing them. So I thought, okay, I'll give a snippet roll a try. And I had to go get some fabric, to be honest, because I didn't have any. So I found a place, the Goodwill, that had these extra pieces of fabric that you could get. There was a secondhand store also in my neighborhood that I could get fabric from and laces from and little things like that. And also online. So I got some of those little pieces of fabric and I was like, okay, now what do you put that on? Because I wasn't sure. I went ahead and put that on the back of some chiffon, which I realized probably wasn't the best thing to do. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a glue glob there. But if you're going to paste it down on something, nobody's going to see the glue glob. But yeah, the glue glob was interesting. And I realized that that can be a real problem. Now this one here, I did only little tiny bits of glue globs. And then I had a sewing machine that I borrowed from my daughter, and I was able to sew those down, the extra little pieces, so that I didn't end up with all these glue globs. I didn't have to glue as heavily to keep things in place. And I could have hand stitched those down, but I chose to go ahead and use the sewing machine. That's bothering me. Sorry, I'm going to pull that off. So yeah, pretty proud of my snippet rolls here, and now I know different ways to use them. Oh, and hot glue, bad. Don't use hot glue. So yeah, bad. Hot glue was bad because it burned me, and it was really hot and hard to hold on to. And then it gets stiff, and then the stuff falls off, especially if you're going to do these little beads. So if you're going to use hot glue, just be really, really careful, because it can be painful. Fabric glue is the best, and that's where did it go? Fabric Fix glue. You guys know what I'm talking about, because I don't see my bottle right now. The Fabric Fix glue is really good and does have a great hold. And the punches I got from the Goodwill or the secondhand store. So these cost me maybe a couple dollars. And what's nice is I'm able to try them out at the Goodwill or the other store before I leave, because sometimes if you buy them there, they're dull. They're there for a reason. They're not cutting anymore. And I know you can try to use foil to get those sharpened again. But these can be great prices, great deals at the secondhand stores. I've got not only this border punch and that one, but so many more at the secondhand store. I've gotten big ones that I didn't know until just recently. They're to make doilies. So it makes a whole circle, and it has different patterns that it makes. And I think I got those for like $5. They were ginormous. I was super excited about that. So you can get your punches and create cool borders along your papers. And that's a lot of fun to do. Now, as you've seen, I am doing a lot of inking of the edges here. So I am doing a lot of the distressing on the edges of the papers and stuff. Something that I found for me, it was not as enjoyable. I don't really enjoy that process as much as other people do. So I do tend to stay away from that if I can. Otherwise, I will do it if I need to. But yeah, I was doing a lot of inking, which just really felt like a lot of time was taken away from me just doing all that inking. And using the digitals, of course, were just really helpful and help with time. So here's one of my layer or multi-pockets here. And I was practicing tea dyeing, and we used an electro burner here to try to create a different effect on paper, which was effective and great and looks awesome. But it's also very dangerous, so I wouldn't recommend that because you can set yourself in the house on fire. So you want to be really careful. I even saved snippets of all the papers of my first coffee and tea dyeing and what that was like and what they ended up looking like and what worked and what didn't work. Always separate the edges first, and make sure that if you put envelopes in there, you stick them in, take them out, the glue will run everywhere. It will come off and run everywhere in your solution, so it can really get kind of sticky and yucky. So be careful of that. And you need to also pull this up so that the tea gets down inside. Otherwise, you end up with a white envelope in there, which is okay if you don't mind that, but I like it to be the same color as the outside, at least a little bit. So again, I have the book throughout here, some rickrack throughout here, and as we go through, ooh, this one has vanilla scent on the paper. I tried putting a little doily in there, did my own eco dyeing first try, and that was a lot of fun, and I can do a tutorial on that later. But as I went through here, I started to notice that once I started sewing these in, because I don't decorate till after I sew these in, they tell you to leave a gap here for a reason. And I honestly thought, okay, I had left enough of a gap when I sewed in my signatures. So this is one of the bigger lessons learned, right? So if I can find that one in here. I thought I had 4. Yeah, I do. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I have 4. And so even though you can see the gap there where they were sewn in, they were so thick once they got filled with all their decorations and stuff that it started to put pressure on the book and on this exterior cover and spine. And I thought I'd get smart, and I wanted to use the cover of the Alice in Wonderland book in the junk journal. So let's see if I can find the first one. That one, see, that one's already come out because of all the pressure that I had in this book. Oh, this was one of the covers here. You can kind of hear it. So that was one of the covers to the book. It was probably the back cover to the book, and that's why I put it in here. And so as you can see, it's taped in with washi and then glued in, and then I glued it in some more because it was starting to pop up a little bit. And then this started to split from the spine. So the back cover began to split and come apart from the spine, and you could see it pulling in the white. And I kept adding more glue and the washi over that to keep it there, but it's continued to pull and deform. Let's see if I can, and you can kind of see it breaking right in there too. You heard that crack. That's where it's kind of breaking along the spine there. The center is holding together, but it doesn't have, it's solid there, so there's no reason for it to break there because it's a pretty hardcore piece of cardboard there. So yeah, that again right here is a big crack where it's the cover is pulling away from the spine. It's all splitting, but this time I was able to get the glue and the washi to stick pretty well. It's not coming up at all. So I do believe this book is going to hold together, but I should have put more room here and, you know, in between each signature, and that way it had room to grow. That way it had room to be decorated and to have all that ephemera and embellishments not cause the problems that I've continued to have with this book. So here's one of my pocketed bookmarks, and this one's not really doesn't really go with this book. What I did learn is when you Mod Podge your stuff and you decide to seal it with that, and then you take this and you layer it on top of another Mod Podged item, the Mod Podge stays kind of sticky. So once they lay on top of each other, when you pull them apart, they will tear and you will ruin your pieces. At least where I live, these things stay a little more tacky a little longer because in Washington State, it is a little more moist. There is more humidity. We've got a lot more moisture in the air because of all the rain and stuff. So it takes longer for things to dry. And so this cover stayed pretty tacky for a long time, and I didn't anticipate that. So after I sealed it with the Mod Podge, it was really, really tacky, and it was very frustrating because it was hard to use because it didn't feel so good to the touch, and I was afraid it would never dry. It finally has. I mean, it's been over a year, but yet I think if I stuck this here, I think it would still have a problem. I think it would reactivate. I don't know. It'd be interesting to try. So that is the good and bad of this book. There's a lot that I learned, about spines and making sure you have room enough, making sure that you use good glue, making sure that you use the right papers. I thought originally I was going to use cardstock throughout the book, and that would have really made it heavy and hard to use. So, and this is everything I was learning about Etsy over here. And then I did use some of my personal tea dyed papers in here and some of my electro burned edges. So it was a lot of fun making this book, and I learned a lot, and it hooked me. It hooked me. I wanted to keep making and creating, even though it wasn't perfect, even though it wasn't like the prettiest book out there. I was still very proud of getting through it because this was a big one and a lot of work, and I didn't realize that how much work a big one would be. I just thought, oh, I'll make a big one. That won't be a problem. I don't know why that people think that'd be so hard. It takes a lot of time. So especially when I wasn't using a template for the first time. It wasn't showing me where to put every pocket, where to put every belly band. In fact, I don't think I even have one belly band in here because I don't think I even realized that there was such a thing as belly bands at the time. So yeah, just figuring things out as I go along, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It gives me joy. It gives me relaxation, and I'm so glad to be able to share it with others now because it's hard to find other people who understand junk journaling and what it's about. And oftentimes it is about using repurposed, recycled items, not new items. And digitals would count as new. But junk journals has kind of grown in its classification, I think, and has become even bigger than that. And I know even people who do art journals kind of put their art journal into junk journaling because they do all of it. Art journaling, junk journaling, multimedia, all in one book. And I see myself also evolving that way as well. So we'll be able to experience and grow and try a lot of different things that are in all of those venues because I think they're all important, and try them, and maybe you'll like them and it'll stick, or maybe you won't ever do it again, but at least you were able to do something different. And sometimes we get stuck in a rut just doing the same old things. So that's one thing I want to remember about these newer journals. The first ones the older journals, the ones I did first, is that there are things in here that I probably won't remember I did down the road, and things that I might want to incorporate down the road because I was like, oh, that was really cool and that was fun and I like how I did that. So I hope I don't forget my first. I hope I don't forget my first, and that I remember what it was like and how to apply the principles and the thoughts and ideas around doing this into my future work. And that it remains a real joy and pleasure for me down the road, which I'm sure it will. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I really appreciate it. I do have a store, tiffscreatives.com, if you are looking for any tea dyed papers, eco dyed papers, or any kind of embellishments. I do sell a lot of those things there, and I do have a lot of jewelry bling there as well for your books because I really like making the jewelry bling. So take a check. Take a look at my store, check it out, and I will see you later. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.